Welcome, welcome. It is World Narcissistic Abuse Awareness Day. And so I thought, what better day to do a live on YouTube? Um, I want to answer some questions that get asked. And if there are any questions, go ahead and pop those into the chat. And a lot of times people ask me, how did I get started in this? Well, this is probably not going to come as a whole lot of a surprise, but because I've been there too. I was in a partnership, if you can call it that, where one day I came home to learn that the man that was living in my house was not who I thought he was at all. He and his two children were living in my home. It was a life altering, earth shattering, it really imploded my life. It shook me to my core. So, what I have become so passionate about is through my own experiences of learning and understanding that I have had very close interaction with narcissists for over 40 years. I work alongside experts, psychologists, psychotherapists, psychiatrists from all over the world that specialize in this topic. I've had guests that I've worked with, such as former FBI agents that specialize in dangerous personalities, Joe Navarro. I've worked with top leading experts from all over the world, from Austria, from the Netherlands, people that specialize in toxic people and narcissistic behavior. Where I really became passionate about this and doing the research as a master certified coach is really focusing on the people that are enduring the abuse and helping them come out better than they were before on the other side. So, one of the things that I think is important is to recognize the signs. And so, oftentimes, yes, on the channel here, we do talk about the signs of narcissistic behaviors, right? We're not here diagnosing anybody. So, I just think that's an important thing to note, that we are not here diagnosing and calling people narcissists, right? Like, I do have episodes or videos where I go over and I cover the 9 characteristics that are to be diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder. You have to have 5 of those 9 persistent. They have to cause an impact, a negative impact on relationships in their lives. Hello, as you're joining, I'm so glad that you're here. We are, I don't want to say necessarily celebrating, but we are doing just acknowledging World Narcissistic Abuse Awareness Day. But one of the things, and this might be a little bit of a hot take, where I think it's really important to understand narcissistic abuse if you are on the receiving end of that. Again, might be a little bit of a hot take, because yes, we will always kind of look at and analyze the behaviors of narcissistic behavior or toxic behavior in people. But what's really important, and what was a really big step for me in the journey, was understanding my own behaviors. Understanding my own behaviors that were a reaction of the abuse. A lot of you might relate to things like people pleasing. You might relate to perfectionism, especially if this is a parent-child relationship or a family relationship. If you grew up in a narcissistic household, that might be something that really resonates with you as well. So oftentimes we hear about romantic partnerships, and people will say, well, why didn't you just leave? I do have a video on that. The surprising reasons, the shocking reasons why people don't just leave a narcissistic romantic relationship. There's a lot of nuances to that. And so you can check out that video. If you are someone that grew up in a narcissistic household, or you're wondering, especially women, female daughters of narcissistic mothers, there is a video that is very popular that I have with Dr. Carol McBride, who is a psychologist that is very specialized specifically on that. So you can take a watch on that video as well. And really the information is to help you break free from this trauma. And it really is. And I really want to make sure that it's not minimized by people, because if you've been through it, you know how damaging and heartbreaking and shocking and traumatizing it really is. And narcissistic abuse is actually identified as CPTSD. So we hear a lot about PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder, but narcissistic abuse is it's a bunch of little micro traumas that add up. And then once you finally see it and understand it for what it is, you can't unsee it. There's no going back after that. Once you see it and you understand it. And sometimes what's really important and why I do a lot of these videos is for obviously education purposes. But when we can name things, we can kind of claim it so that we can move forward and move beyond that trauma that we have endured from the narcissistic abuse. So that's why I really wanted to acknowledge this today, knowing that there are ways to break free from it, move forward, rise above, and come out even better on the other side. So I really like to focus on tools for emotional healing. Sometimes we have to reset our central nervous system. One of the things that happened to me, and maybe some of you relate to this too, which I should probably do an upcoming video on psychosomatic signs that you might be in a narcissistic relationship. Because one of the things that happened for me when I was in this traumatic relationship was my body was telling me before my heart and my mind could even catch up. What do I mean by that? Well, I had abnormal skin cancer lesions that I had to have removed. When the big trauma happened, my hair all broke off and fell out. And the biggest thing that happened was I got shingles on my face in my 30s, which is very abnormal. That is a huge indicator that something was wrong, that my immune system was suppressed, and that my body was like dermatologists will say, you should not get shingles in your 30s unless something is really wrong, unless you are under extreme duress, trauma, stress, etc. And that's exactly what was happening to me. And so my body was kind of telling me before. So if you have a situation in your life where maybe you are, every time you have to see this person or engage with them or even text them, you feel anxious. Maybe you get a stomach ache. Like, these are indicators that sometimes our body is telling us that something is wrong, and we have to pay attention to those signs. And so that's one thing, that emotional healing, the physical signs that can actually be present. So I really like to focus on that, the self-healing and rebuilding your own, not just self-love, but self-trust. Because once we understand what we've been through in narcissistic healing or narcissistic abuse and that healing process, sometimes we really start to doubt and second guess ourselves. So if you've been there, drop a thumbs up or a heart emoji in the chat if you have second guessed yourself because of the gaslighting or the manipulation. It is so critical and important. Hello. Oh my gosh, I love the hugs. Love, love, love that. Thank you. So one of the things that really can happen is when you ignore the red flags and you start to not trust yourself, you start to doubt your decision-making skills. You start to doubt. That's really what gaslighting is designed to do. And that is actually going to be my next video, because so many of you have asked in the comments, what is gaslighting? When I use the term gaslighting in the videos, people will say, well, what is it? And I did a podcast episode years ago before I started doing YouTube on what gaslighting is, but it's a perfect time to do a refresh on it. It's a great question. So gaslighting is a manipulative tool that narcissists will use to make you question reality, make you question the events that happen. And there's a whole history of it, so I'll save that for the video, but it's really designed to make you feel like you're going crazy. Has anybody been there? Someone actually, like the manipulative tactics that they do, I mean, I've been there. They'll shift the conversation, they'll dodge, accountability and answering the questions, and you'll leave the conversation, or especially if it's an argument, feeling really confused, going, what just happened? So put like a hands up if you have been there, if you feel like you've experienced gaslighting. And so that self-doubt, it doesn't just end with that one conversation, that lack of self-trust, that starts to build over time. And then you start to second guess yourself again, like a lot of victims, and I like to say survivors of narcissistic abuse, but a lot of survivors feel like that self-doubt and that lack of self-trust continues to build and grow over time. So I really like to help people with that. I have a lot of tools. I share my own story, by the way, in my first book, which is a #1 bestseller called You're My Favorite. You can grab it on my website for half off, and it's also available on Amazon. And then my second book, I developed for people that have endured narcissistic abuse, adversity, trauma in their lives, or people that just even are in a self-improvement or a self-empowerment, self-love journey. It's called I'm My Favorite. It's a guided journal for your path forward, and it uses all of the tools that I used on my own path, on my own journey, out of not just surviving, but thriving after narcissistic abuse. And so that's also great. I don't have any copies of that on my website right now, but that can also be grabbed on Amazon. So those are a couple of different things like I really want to focus on here. So if you have questions and comments, I know I've been doing some polls and asking people what topic do you want to see next, and that's been really helpful for me to understand what it is that you want information on, what you want support or looking for. So please feel free to put in the comments here if there's a topic specifically that you would like for me to cover. I also do offer one-on-one coaching, which you can grab a spot in my website, ginnypreem.com, just my name. I like to keep things simple. But make sure you subscribe to my channel so that you can get more content like this, really designed to help empower and support people that have endured narcissistic abuse. Again, what better way to talk about this than on World Narcissistic Abuse Awareness Day, June 1st. So maybe we'll do a live like this every year on June 1st to kind of support that. And that's really it. I wanted to hop on and say hello, kind of talk a little bit about what we're doing here and acknowledge that if you have been through something like this, you're not alone. I really want this to be a supportive community where you feel seen and heard. So again, if there are things that you are wanting to learn, understand better, talk about, drop it in the comments. Leave a comment, leave a question that I would be happy to answer. I do at least 3 times a week try to get to the comments, and there's a lot of them. This has grown much faster than I ever anticipated. So thank you for your support and for being here. It really means a lot to me because it gives me the opportunity to help raise awareness about narcissistic abuse. And again, that's why we are doing this here today. So thank you so much for being here. Again, leave any comments in the questions if you have any questions that you would like for me to answer in upcoming videos. Look out for the one this week on gaslighting. I'll give you the whole history, go way more in depth of what it is, what it looks like. I'll even talk about Darvo. So if you haven't heard of Darvo, that's a specific gaslighting technique. So we'll dive into that in that video as well. And again, thank you for being here, and I can't wait to see you next time.